Hi, Year 9. Welcome back to Lord of the Flies. I must find out how to have the screen ready from the outset. Some teachers can do it. I'm pretty jealous of how they can do that. Um, so, welcome back to Lord of the Flies. Last time we studied the word strident, and it means strident, someone who's strident delivers their points in a forceful way. And which character do you think is going to be the most strident on the island? Do you think it's Piggy with his frustrated um, sense of um, kind of working class embarrassment? Do you think he'll come through? Do you think Ralph is going to become more assertive now that he has the conch? Or do you think Jack is going to be the most strident because he can sing in C sharp and is head boy? Look forward to your thoughts. Humiliation means, well, if you think of Latin, the word humilis from the word earth or ground or soil, meaning virtually worthless or insignificant, means humble. So you're putting yourself on par with the ground. Humiliation means you've been reduced to nothing, or you've been brought down a peg or two, or you've been embarrassed or degraded or humbled. So today you are going to look at some other, well, develop your understanding of characters in chapter 1, Jack and Simon. I'm going to talk a little about Simon, what William Golding was intending when he drew these characters. So we're going to read pages 10 to 12, and you are going to answer three things. Please. One, what do you think the conch might symbolize? You know, that shell that Ralph used as a trumpet to summon everybody, found in the Blue Lagoon. Then you'll list two quotations, please, that give you an impression of Jack's character, and give us your impression of Simon and a little explanation. So what do you think he is like? What do you feel about him? And explain why. So, yeah, you've met the boys on the desert island, which is sometimes tranquil and sometimes aggressive, distant roars or calm, iridescent water. You've met the fair-haired boy, Ralph, who's confusingly portrayed as a dark-haired boy in the American version. So they're basically the same character. Then you met Piggy, who has asthma and a Cockney accent and somehow admires Ralph, but is also quite clever. He gave Ralph the idea of calling the boys using the shell. Then Jack rocks up with his choir, boasting about how he's a good singer and was head boy at his school, and that he should be called Merridew rather than Jack. The others are on first name terms. And then you already know that William Golding, here looking very much like the teacher, drew up this story because he knows what boys are like. They aren't like those chaps in Coral Island. They're wild when they're left alone. Well, they can be. What do you think is in the last gap down here? Any thoughts? It's the conch, the shell that Ralph uses to summon the boy. So he has the power at the moment, symbolically. A little word on Simon. I've been going on about how Simon is a symbol of Saint Peter, of all people, the first person that that Jesus is said to have handed over power of the church to. So here is Jesus. It's a pretty odd thing to do, isn't it? Turning Simon. Hello, Simon. I'd like you to start the church off, and I'm going to call you Peter. Why doesn't Simon say? Isn't Simon good enough? No, Peter means rock, so you're the rock of the church. I tell you, Simon, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. So St. Peter's the first pope. And then, so Peter Kin means, in a weird way, uh, but this is what Golding intended. He said Peter is Simon. So Peter Kin in the Coral Island is Simon in Lord of the Flies. And the Peter Kin character was harmless. He was always having fun. He was always smiling. No one said anything bad about him. He represents goodness and purity. So Simon is Peter, if you like. There it is. So Simon is Peter from the Bible. So let's have a quick read of page 10, 11, and 12. Find my way over to Word. It's been a while since I've done this. Lord of the Flies, a book about lies. Lord of the Flies, a book about guys who almost fell out of a plane. Okay. Okay. Let's look at some language before we start reading. We've already met Jack and his. Then the chaps suggest a vote. So this is where we are starting. And a protest means resistance or being unwilling to do something. Clamor, noise, election by claim, which means you're voted out of because of your popularity or people's celebration of you. Grudgingly means you do it, but you aren't very enthusiastic about doing something. Mortification, this means being. It's similar to that other word, humiliation. It means you're embarrassed. And suffusion, if your cheeks suffuse, it means they are it's a blush basically, so they're filled. Blood fills your cheeks. Togs, slang for clothes. Take off your togs, take off your clothes. And we've spoken about Simon, so I've bored you with that. And then you know what humiliation means. Then we'll stop there. So we join Ralph and Jack at the election for chief. Who's going to be chief? He's going to be chief. Yes, let's have a vote. Yes, let's vote for chief. Let's vote. This toy of voting was almost as pleasing as the conch. Jack started to protest, but the clamour changed from a general wish for a chief to an election by claim of Ralph himself. None of the boys could have found a good reason for this. What intelligence had been shown was traceable to Piggy, while the most obvious leader was Jack. But there was a stillness about Ralph as he sat that marked him out. There was his size and attractive appearance, and most obscurely, yet most powerfully, there was the conch. The being that had blown that had sat waiting for them on the platform with the delicate thing balanced on his knees and was set apart. Him with the shell, Ralph, Ralph, let him be chief with the trumpet thing. Ralph raised a hand for silence. All right, who wants Jack to be chief? With dreary obedience, the choir raised their hands. Who wants me? Every hand outside the choir, except Piggy's, was raised immediately. Then Piggy, too, raised his hand grudgingly into the air. Ralph counted. I'm chief, then. The circle of boys broke into applause. Even the choir applauded, and the freckles on Jack's face disappeared under a blush of mortification. He started up, then changed his mind, and sat down again while the air rang. Ralph looked at him, eager to offer something. The choir belongs to you, of course. They could be army, or hunters. They could be. The suffusion drained away from Jack's face. Ralph waved again for silence. Jack's in charge of the choir. They could be. What do you want them to be? Hunters. Jack and Ralph smiled at each other with shy liking. The rest began to talk eagerly. Jack stood up. All right, choir, take off your togs. As if released from class, the choir boys stood up, chattered, piled their black cloaks on the grass. Jack laid his on the trunk by Ralph. His grey shorts were sticking to him with sweat. Ralph glanced at them admiringly, and when Jack saw this glance, he explained, I tried to get over that hill to see if there was water all round, but your shell called us. Ralph smiled and held up the conch for silence. Listen, everybody. I've got to have some time to think things out. I can't decide what to do straight off. If this isn't an island, we might be rescued straight away. So we've got to decide if this is an island. Everybody must stay around here and wait, not go away. 3 of us. If we take more, we'll all get mixed and lose each other. 3 of us will go on an expedition and find out. I'll go, and Jack and he looked around the circle of eager faces. There was no lack of boys to choose from. And Simon. The boys round Simon giggled, and he stood up, laughing a little. Now that the pallor of his faint was over, he was a skinny, vivid little boy with a glance coming up from under a hut of straight hair that hung down, black and coarse. He nodded at Ralph. I'll come. And Jack snatched from behind him a sizable sheath knife and clouted it into a trunk. The buzz rose and died away. Piggy stirred. I'll come. Ralph turned to him. You're no good on a job like this. All the same, we don't want you, Jack said, flatly. 3's enough. Piggy's glasses flashed. I was with him when he found the conch. I was with him before anyone else was. Jack and the others paid no attention. There was a general dispersal. Ralph, Jack, and Simon jumped off the platform and walked along the sand past the bathing pool. Piggy hung bumbling behind them. If Simon walks in the middle of us, said Ralph, then we could talk over his head. The 3 of them fell into step. This meant that every now and then Simon had to do a double shuffle to catch up with the others. Presently Ralph stopped and turned back to Piggy. Look. Jack and Simon pretended to notice nothing. They walked on. You can't come. Piggy's glasses were misted again, this time with humiliation. You told him, after what I said. His face flushed, his mouth trembled. After I said I didn't want what on earth are you talking about? About being called Piggy. I said I didn't care as long as they didn't call me Piggy. And I said not to tell. And then you went and said straight out. Stillness descended on them. Ralph, looking with more understanding at Piggy, saw that he was hurt and crushed. He hovered between the 2 courses of apology or further insult. Better Piggy than Fatty, he said at last with the directness of genuine leadership. And anyway, I'm sorry if you feel like that. Now go back, Piggy, and take names. That's the job. Go. So long. He turned and raced after the other 2. Piggy stood, and the rose of indignation faded slowly from his cheeks. He went back to the platform. Okay, folks, so we'll pause there. I forgot to mention that Simon was the boy who fainted. He's one of Jack's choir, and he fainted and was finally allowed to rest on the beach. So let's go back to PowerPoint. I need to tread carefully so I don't forget to press the sound button because I have a video summary of what we just read. I think it's here.
We've got to decide about being rescued. I think we ought to have a chief to decide things. Let's have a vote. matter who's in charge. We've just got to work together. Jack's in charge of the choir. What do you want them to be? Hunters. Choir, take off your tops.
So Piggy is excluded, and Jack has his sheath knife. So I have to go back out and back in. I think I pressed something that's going to spoil the display. Okay, so what do you think the conch might symbolize? List 2 quotations that give you an impression of Jack's character. And third task, what is your impression of Simon? Explain. Here's an example of what you could write. So number 1, what do you think the conch might symbolize? I think the conch symbolizes the birth of civilization. That's my idea, so you'll have better ideas. What's the second one? A quotation about Jack. 2 quotations about Jack. You can't use these, folks, because these aren't actually from pages 10 or 10 to 12. Not the section we read anyway. So Jack peered down at Ralph, and Ralph and the creamy shell did not seem to satisfy him. Give me the impression Jack's aloof and considers himself superior. I haven't asked for an explanation, but I've added one anyway, just in case you're one of those students who likes to spread themselves a little. But we're just asking for 2 quotations. And finally, something about Simon, impression of Simon. I think Simon finds it difficult because being on the island because he's already fainted. So my impression and my explanation. So those tasks again. What does the conch symbolize, in your opinion? 2 quotations that give you an impression of Jack and an impression of Simon, please, plus explanation. See you next time.